All right, here's our next video in section 4.8. We just talked about dividing by a monomial, one term. In this video, though, we're going to talk about dividing by a binomial. What happens when we divide and there's two terms that we're dividing by? Well, let's recall back, I don't know, probably grade school, right? Where we took and we did our long division. For example, if I asked you to take 5,132 and divide it by 4. If we didn't have a calculator, a lot of us would do a long division. So let's think back of how we did that. Because what we're going to do in a second is we're going to take a polynomial and now we're going to divide it by something with more than one term. So we can't do it like we did before. What we have to do is do like a long division. So let's recall how to do it with just regular numbers, and then we'll talk about how to do it with polynomials. Are you ready? Here we go. So what I want to do is I want to take this first term and I want to divide it by this first term. So how many times does 4 go into 5? Well, we know it goes in there. Whoops, we know it goes in there once. And then do you remember we take the 1 and we multiply it by the 4? So 1 times 4 is 4. Do you remember what we do now? Yeah, we subtract to find the difference, right? So I'm going to subtract 4 from 5. So 5 minus 4 is 1. Do you remember we carry the 1 down and then we follow that process again and again and again? So let's take 11 and divide it by 4. So how many times does 4 go into 11? Isn't that twice? 2 times 4 is 8, and then we're going to subtract. So 8 taken away from 11 is 3, right? And then we're going to bring down the 3, and we're going to do it again. How many times does 4 go into 33? Oh, looks like I can do 8 times, right? 4 times 8 is 32. I'm going to subtract. I get 1. I'm going to do it again and bring down the 12. And how many times does 4 go into 12? Well, I get 3. 3 times 4 is 12. When I subtract, I get 0. There's no other numbers to bring down. And so because of that 0, that means it goes in evenly with no remainder. So 5,132 divided by 4 is really 1,283. Remember, we can always double check that that's the right answer by taking this number and multiplying it by the 4, and we should end up getting the 5,132. I know it's been a long time since some of us have done that long division, right? Okay, so let's use that same idea and try to apply it to our polynomials, okay? Remember in our last video, we were able to just separate each piece because all we were doing was dividing by one term. We can divide the first term by it, the second term by it, the last term by it, and simplify from there. This problem looks a little bit different though, because I'm not just dividing by an x, and I'm not just dividing by a 3, I'm dividing by an x plus 3. So we have to do this one a little bit differently. What we have to do is actually a long division process. So let's do it just like we did before, where we're going to take our x squared plus 5x plus 6, and we're going to divide it by x plus 3 using long division. Okay, here we go. We're going to take this first term, the x squared, and we're going to divide it by this first term. So if off to the side I had an x squared divided by x, doesn't that give me just one x? All right, and do you remember when we did our long division, once we had that 1 at the top, we took that and we multiplied it through? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the x and multiply it by the x and the 3. So x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Do you remember what we did next on our long division? Yeah, didn't we have to subtract? So what that means I have to do is I have to subtract the x squared and subtract the 3x. So I have to make sure that I distribute a negative to every term down there. All my signs should change. If you notice, x squared minus x squared zeros each other out. And then I have left a 5x minus 3x, which is really a 2x. That's kind of my leftover. Now I'm going to bring the 6 down, just like I did in my long division, and follow the same process again. So let's figure out how many times x goes into 2x. So off to the side if you need to. If I had 2x divided by x, wouldn't the x's reduce each other? And so I would just have left a positive 2. Ooh, sorry, positive 2. All right, let's go through and multiply it. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3 is 6. Once I multiply it through, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract the 2x and I'm going to subtract the 6, making sure that I change the sign to everything. You notice that 2x minus 2x zero each other out? Ooh, and look, doesn't 6 minus 6 also zero each other out? I have no other term to bring down, and that 0 means that there is no remainder. So x squared plus 5x plus 6 divided by x plus 3 really is a factor of x plus 2. What that really means is I should be able to take the x plus 2 and multiply it by the x plus 3, FOIL or distribute, and I should end up getting the x squared plus 5x plus 6. Try it and see if you get the same answer. You should. That'll give you a good idea that you did it right without making any mistakes. Kind of tricky, right? It's been a while since some of us have done that long division, so make sure that you practice that before moving on to the next examples.